So, question. Remember, we spoke about this briefly the other day, and I said I was going to ask you this question. It's just a straightforward question. Black Americans at the White House. Then from, let's say, 1970 going all the way back to 1865, then versus now, Black Americans at the White House. There's a big difference. Can you break that down?
Yeah, we had Frederick Douglass at the White House way back 170, 160 years ago, who helped write the 13th, 14th, and 5th Amendments and would admonish Lincoln about the problems that came up from what Lincoln was trying to do. We had him going over to Europe to cut off the Johnny Rebs from getting equipment to pursue the Civil War more efficiently. Then we had Booker T. Washington, who was kind of like the late 19th, early 20th century edition of Al Sharpton, who seems to be a hero now because of propaganda that has downplayed W.E.B. Du Bois to being a villain. And anyway, we've had black folk in the White House for a long time, but the problem is that right now, unfortunately, Trump is not a career politician. He was a businessman. He was a man behind the throne with politics, basically on the Democrat Party side. Now he co-opted the Republican Party. He set up MAGA, which could become a viable third party, which would be in everybody's best interest if it did. But right now, he's not really conversant with what happens in the middle. And there are people in the middle that have been brought in to try and compensate for that. But instead of doing it enthusiastically, they have said, we have positions of power. So we're going to be gatekeepers. And although that might be something vital to advancing the interest of the Republic and everybody concerned, we're going to be selfish and we're going to restrict access to the higher echelons so that we can maintain our own little personal fiefs of power. And that is bad for the Trump administration, and something needs to be done about it. Otherwise, it'll fail. Now, right now, wow.
There are no Black Americans in the White House speaking for Black America.
Yes, there are.
Who? Right, I'm talking about right now.
Yes, there are. Think about it.
Tell me the punchline.
Think about it. Alice Johnson for pardons, Kim Kardashian for being the expert on sentencing reform,
That's why I said, give me the punchline.
Hubby, who is supposed to be the expert on this, that, and the other. In other words, everybody who is an entertainer, one of your Beyonce types, and she's one of the better ones, who don't know shit about a damn thing that is relevant to governance, they have become the resident experts.
And that's the problem that I have, because when you look at other groups who represent their group at the White House, they're getting things done for their group.
Well, it's PR. That helps. That is a stage in the political process to deal with PR circumstances so you can be heard, so the public likes you. That is important. And people do follow Trump because he's a man, a real man. He's not one of these sissies that says it's good to put boys in sports bras and panties and let them compete against the girls and beat them up and go into the girls' bathroom so they can pull their dicks out and piss in the girls' bathrooms and get off on their sick fantasies. See, we have a man who's saying no. We have a man who's talking about 50% of the human race is not enough. We have to have 100%. We've got to put all of it back into the mix. That's a good thing. And you see, it compensates for a lot of sickness that has gone on. And we have our propaganda mechanisms that are telling a lie long and loud, and that will have its results. So people believe that as though it's a reality. And we have
So
to overcome it. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that's what you do from time to time. Recognize it and embrace it. You're one of those people who defeats the lie. Now, that's it. Let's.
So this article here about the New York Times, it says it's time to let go of African American. That term African American, right? I don't. I'll call myself Black American. Is it? So the question is, should we keep it or eliminate it? The African American. We went from being a slave to what was it? Being colored, Negro, and African American. And so
My answer to that is screw you. It's my goddamn business as to what I choose to call myself, and I don't give a flying F what you think I ought to call me. I'm not a damn dog or a biological specimen you can apply a Latin term to designating. All
so
right?
do you call yourself African American?
I call myself Afro American. I call myself black.
Right.
See, black is a nice generic term and it embraces a certain concept. So they're white, brown, black, red, yellow. We all came out of Mother Africa. Some went to Europe and got pale white. Some went to Asia, got yellow. Some went from Asia to the new world, America, and they got red. Some came back around from Europe who were white and they got brown. So we're all from Mother Africa, and if we keep interbreeding because humans don't like to stop screwing, they like to do the wild thing, and we tend to mix it up. So soon we'll be back the way we were in the ancestral condition, which is kind of dark brown with whatever we had, and we'll all be human. So there you go.
Yeah, well,
Wow, we whoopee, and I identify right now as the black component. So go to hell if you don't like it. I don't give.
who created that? Well, it wasn't Jesse Jackson, was it?
No, it wasn't. We were
He
look.
popularized
Started.
it.
It's the way it went. Is my grandparents called people colored. Then in my parents' generation, my old man was born in 1910 and my mama was born in 1917. They started saying Negro, which was a Spanish thing anyway. And then we got rid of Negro about 1966 and started saying black. And then about 1967, it started becoming Afro American or black, your choice.
Mhm.
Now, in the late 1970s, Afro American kind of morphed into African American. Jesse Jackson didn't start it, it was just a thing that happened. Uh, Urban mythology says Jesse did it, but it wasn't Jesse. It was colored, Negro, black, Afro American, black, African American. And I started about 5 years ago. I said, wait a minute, I don't buy into that crap. I started using black. And then, interestingly enough, within 5 or 6 months, everybody was saying black. You see, there's a truth about media, and that is almost 60 years ago, you could start a trend in 6 weeks. Now it just takes 6 days. And sometimes I experiment and deliberately see if I can start a trend. It takes about 4 or 5 days for it to start. I don't make a big deal of it, but
Yeah, I think, but you know what? The problem, I don't use African American. Don't call me African American. Don't call me colored or Negro. I identify as American, but to be more specific, I am a Black American. However, um, you
by
have,
the way, get your DNA done and see what else is in it.
okay. So it's a lot of infiltrators too when the term African Americans, because you have Mandani, the guy who's running for mayor in New York.
Who the hell is he?
He's the
I know who he is, but who the hell is he? He's a nobody. He hasn't been vetted.
let me finish.
Okay, go
So
ahead.
he's running for mayor of New York, but throughout when he was applying for scholarships and applying to college, he checked off African American and Asian. So he was double, triple dipping. So people he was born in Uganda. I think he was raised, I don't know, in Europe, then came here or whatever. But his lineage, his DNA is Indian. But because people outsiders, I say, non-foundational Black Americans, they know they could take advantage of that term African American and receive resources. And that is why I do not identify with African American. And we foundational Black Americans, well, Black Americans need our own separate box.
You don't need your own separate box. Let me tell you what the trap is. If you, the next time you fill out a federal form, you will notice that up front there are two boxes. One says Hispanic, non-Hispanic. If you check non-Hispanic, you go to the next several boxes and it'll ask you if you're African American or Black, Caucasian or white, so and so, Pacific Islander, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if you checked Hispanic, you could be all of those. Now, I have a tailor, great tailor. She's blonde haired, blue eyed, but she's from Argentina and she's 70 some years old. And her parents are from formerly Nazi Germany. So she's an Argentine. She's classified as Hispanic, but they don't deal with the fact that she's got straight up and down blonde hair, blue eyed, white. She is a Hispanic. You see, that is an artifact that they use to manipulate the situation. If you speak English as a native language, then you have to deal with, are you Black, African American, white, Caucasian, or et cetera, et cetera. My stepmother checked, well, she's dead now, but she checked off Hispanic. She also should have been required to check off Asian because she is almost exclusively Hispanic, not Hispanic, but Chinese in her ancestry. She just happens to live in the Philippines. So since she speaks habla español muy bien, she is classified as Hispanic when she's a typical Chinese person. You see how that works?
No, I see how it works. This is why I don't, yeah. And this is why I don't, me personally, I don't,
I don't have any problems with it.
So
but the thing of it is when you don't check African American, Black, etc., there are some consequences in terms of political, economic, and other advantages that evaporate. They're trying to discourage people to check off what they are because of the way money is expended or allocated.
Okay. All right, so let me get to some super chats here. Thank you, Walter. Walter, he comes early, honey. Thank you so much. And thank you, Regina. She sent in a Cash App small token amount for the show. Thank you so much. Thank you, Philip says, you can't get this kind of comedy. Thank you both. That was earlier when we was talking about the Beyonce thing. Thank you, Prometheus Forever. Miss Karen Bass was played a significant role, or has played a significant role with the then Saramos Brigade, a group linked to Cuba's communist regime. In 1973,
Brigade, that's Fidel and Che.
Mm-hmm.
He was fond of wearing T-shirts with Fidel, well, Che Guevara's image on it with his beret.
In 1973, she was trained in terrorist revolutionary tactics.
I don't know if she was trained in all that, but she wishes she was. She was a little junior flip in 1973.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Agent, for the lovely comment. Free Game says, hi, Judge. I want to become a lawyer. Do you think it's a good career in 2025 and beyond with Hey, Judge, I want to become a lawyer. Do you think it's a good career in 2025 and beyond with AI? And what are some good books for beginners for law?
It's something AI is not likely to replace anytime soon. What you are as a lawyer is a specialist in generalities and solving problems that need resolution. You should be ideally somebody who becomes accomplished, wise, learned and experienced in the law and wise in the ways of the world. If I were you, I'd take all the English courses I could take so you can learn to communicate in writing effectively. If you want to be a good lawyer, it's not about money. It's not about trying to take what you have and turn it into a business. It's still supposed to be a professional, and your job is to be part of the aristocracy that makes a system like the United States function. You're supposed to rock the hell out of the boat when necessary and resist temptation to reinforce the status quo. You are the nobility for a system like ours, but too many forget that. So find something when you get out of law school that gives you the opportunity to get your internship and residence together. Join the public defender's office, join a prosecutor's office, a governmental office where you will get maximum trial experience and learn how to deal with people directly. It's not all about making money. You might defray that. You'll make more money in the long term.
Yeah.
Now, that said, good luck.
And also with the AI is not going to be taking over the law, because there have been judges who have called out lawyers who tried to hand in a brief written by AI. So, like you said, got to learn how to write, you got to learn how to read, and yeah,
It's gestalt, an intuitive thing that so far AI is not able to duplicate. So it's sort of like this feels wrong. See, the law has some concepts very briefly. It's better for 100 guilty men to go free than one innocent man be convicted. We forget that. All right. It's about the business of it feels wrong because when the reason for the law ceases to exist, so much application of the law. It's about the spirit of the law more so than the letter of the law. And the law is an imperfect thing because it's only stating general principles, not firm and absolute conditionals. Now, that's it. Good luck. When you study law, you no longer study it the old time way. You had Black's law, and Black had numbered lists of what the principles of law were. We no longer study it that way. You read case law. In other words, you study historical anecdotes so you understand the law. I'm giving you what is for me a series of historic anecdotes, examples, so you understand the law. That's what law is founded on. That's what case law is about. They are examples of real life situations that you can look at and say, oh, the light bulb goes on. I get it. That's why we have this principle of law right now. So all I'm doing when I supposedly ramble on is I'm just giving you what they do in law school when they teach young students how to be lawyers. You give historical anecdotes so they get the point.
Thank you, free game. Judge, why is family court judges are so difficult to deal with and biased against the man? Good question.
Because most of them have insufficient experience in the practical application and practice of law. Being head of a domestic court is kind of a joke if you are a good lawyer.
Okay. So you're saying that family court judges don't know much about the law?
They, if they had the trial work, if they had the client list, they wouldn't be in a position of accepting being a domestic court judge.
Well, what's wrong with a family court judge?
because they're at the low end of the totem
But
pole.
you need them.
No, but you really don't. They are a politically correct phenomenon.
So then who? So then who will give judgment down for child support and kids and family
You
court?
don't need them because you already have the mechanism. Most states have the equivalent of a superior court or circuit court judge. And what you need to do is simply create more of them and get the experience level that goes with that. When you have these domestic courts, you're paying them the same as a circuit or chancery court or superior court judge. You're paying them the same. But what happens is you tend to get people like some who are television judges or famous ones. They graduate from law school, they practice doing what they're doing for a few months, get appointed quickly as a judgeship, and 3 or 4 years later, they get locked into it. And years afterwards, they have no experience. They've never tried a jury case, never handled an appeal. They've done nothing that has influenced the ordinary course of humanity that would come through the courts in their system. They get appealed and the case is tried all over because they're looked at as unreliable triers of fact. They get attitudes, but they might become people who are on TV later and they're listened to. So basically, they aren't exactly the exemplars of what needs to be done in the system. So instead of having domestic courts, you just need to have the regular courts and stop wasting money on amateurs who are handling domestic matters and spend the money on experienced trial lawyers who have decided to retire and become judges. It's like being a great baseball player, you decide to become an umpire. Or do you hire somebody who has never done anything except being in a softball league as a major league umpire to handle World Series events?
It's
Well,
like family court judges don't have a grip on due process. Criminal court judges understand and honor due process.
yeah, that's right. I'd agree 100%. Not always, but mostly on balance.
Okay.